Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In War of the Visions, let's look back at the year and pick some best ofs. I was debating creating a poll for global users, or doing this video with another content creator, but screw it. I'll be lazy and I'll just do it alone. But if another content creator wants to take this idea, make their own video, or even create that poll, go right on ahead. There's a focus on JP here, but there's some global sprinkled in as well. And I'm trying to make picks based on what I feel the general community would pick, but my influence is going to be in there too. And I guess we could call these the Cabbies, the Cabbage War of the Visions Awards. And putting together this list, I was reminded of a story that my dad told me. When he was in elementary school, he had a teacher who would sometimes award Student of the Day. And then the reward for getting that title was you got your desk moved all the way to the front of the classroom, right in front of the chalkboard. That's the kind of dry sense of humor that I enjoy. The ambiguity of whether that is actually a reward or a punishment. That's something that I thought was pretty hilarious. Okay, but first, Sleeper Unit of the Year. Nominees are Aerith, Super Stern, Classy Glassy, and Rob. These are all units that got a bad rap at release or re-release that have slowly won the respect of more and more players over time. And my pick is Rob. His arc has been funny because it's been real up and down. At launch he was decent, then forgotten. Then with EX Awakening and his Vision card he was good, then forgotten. And then with the current Evade meta and other light/evade units, he's great. Aerith suffered at release with folks in both versions complaining about her AI, but the people who put in the effort to learn her and then adapt her to the situation found that she's low-key one of the best units released this year. Maybe the best support unit, maybe the best water unit along with Celes. Classy Glassy, she was kind of disappointing at her release because she was not as strong as Helena. But as we've seen, especially in a fire-heavy team, she's one of the top meta units. And then Super Stern, his EX Awakening was written off. People were saying he's only good for PvE, but here we are, tons of people are using him in PvP. Okay, next, EX Awakening of the Year for UR units. Finalists are Lucia, Vineta, Kiton, and Engelbert. I got to go with Engelbert, and he's kind of the feel-good story of the year. Always really good at what he did, but a little difficult to use. One little upgrade adding hate to his guts self-buff, and boom, suddenly easy to use, suddenly popular. Vineta is more a choice I made with global in mind. She really seemed to make an impact there. And Kiton, she didn't really change all that much with her EX Awakening, but she was featured in some high-level, high-visibility PvP, and folks caught on to how good and kind of power creep proof she is. Until they really shoot HP totals through the roof, Kiton is going to have a place. And then Lucia, her EX is not out in global yet, but she got one of the best job level 25 skills in the game, and that really takes her unit to another level. Next, best EX Awakening for an MR or lower rarity unit. Finalists are Fina, Shadowlynx, Ramada, and Mariaru. Of course, got to give it to Fina. She's almost necessary for the selection quests, especially the upcoming EX quests, but also super viable in PvP. She's also part of one of those top meta teams. Shadowlynx is also great, but not quite as good in PvP as Fina. And then Mariaru and Ramada, they didn't change much with the EX Awakening, but they've always been very good, so just to raise awareness about them, I'll give them the nomination. Next category, new collaboration of the year. Finalists are Final Fantasy VI, 15, and 7. Although my feelings about Final Fantasy VII the game are mixed, I have to give it to this collaboration. Cloud is top tier, Tifa is a super solid handout unit, Aerith is sneakily good, and Barrett is fun if a missed opportunity. With that kit and power level, he should have been cost 80, 70, or maybe even 60 as an MR. But these units, along with Oberon, really ushered in a broadening of the PvP meta element-wise, which has been great and fun. Also, all their limit break animations are great, the voices are great, the events were cool, and the Shinra Bangle and Guard Rod were really good. Final Fantasy VI is also great. Celes is different, strong, and interesting. Terra is solid and fills an important niche. And Locke is maybe the best collaboration handout unit ever. But overall, the collaboration of 7 was still better in terms of the game, War of the Visions. Kills me to say because Final Fantasy VI is my favorite Final Fantasy, and they did a great job with the look and presentation and everything, but for impact on War of the Visions, it's 7. 15 was awesome to have, but none of the units are musts, and maybe Prompto is a tier below Tifa and Locke. Next, returning collaboration of the year. Nominees are Final Fantasy IV, 1, and 14. We'll give it to 4 just because it's more than the other two. Final Fantasy 1 is just Warrior of Light for units, although there's some very nice craftable equipment. Final Fantasy 14 is nice because it's all handout units, but the real prize there probably were the vision cards. Final Fantasy IV is the full package with returning units and Golbez. Next, top collaboration unit of the year, Hatcher. Nominees are Cloud, Celes, and Noctis. Everyone can probably see this coming, but it's Cloud, a cost 100 unit in disguise. I'm glad that he's this strong because he sucked with his initial release in Brave Exvius. I still used him, but Sephiroth's was way better. But getting back to War of the Visions, Celes, she may have a longer lifespan than Cloud, because that's usually how support/tank units play out versus damage dealers in these types of games. But Cloud is more useful for everyday farming. Noctis is super solid and under the radar strong, but will not explosively upgrade an account like Cloud will. Next, collaboration unit of the year, Handout. Nominees here are Tifa, Prompto, Queen, and Locke. This one is tough, but I'll give it to Locke since he has so many more partners than Tifa, who is best with 2B and maybe Leela, so it's like a handful of standard pool and handout units versus 2 limited time Hatcher units. I think global players are going to enjoy using Locke and hate going against him. Alright, collaboration unit EX Awakening of the year. Finalists are Kain, Rosa, Thancred, and Warrior of Light. I'll give it to Kain. Warrior of Light is a solid tank and not much else. Thancred is, at the end of the day, still a handout unit. And Rosa did get better, but Kain is straight fire. He also sucked in Brave Exvius, so it's great to see him be a top-tier single-target damage dealer here. And just overall, it's great seeing these units in like regular 1-to-1 proportions, in 3D running and jumping and talking. Next two categories are about seasonal units, and these are a little bit tough to talk about because I don't have a lot of hands-on experience with them. And I feel like they're kind of rarer overall to run into than some of the other units. But for new seasonal units released this year, Christmas Luasa, Halloween Federica, Summer Kilfe, Summer El Shirel. Those are the nominees. Not going to include Valentine Salia because she's not limited in global. But Luasa and maybe even Federica are still too new to say how good they are for sure. What I have seen of the summer units has been good. They look very solid. Maybe Kilfe is the winner for being light slash, but El Shirel has been really good too when I've gone against her. But I'm going to give the Cabbage to Federica because her unit design is so interesting. It inspired me to make multiple videos of her. And then we have returning seasonal units with the EX Awakening. Finalists are Halloween Leela, Halloween Daidu, Summer Ririshu, and Summer Kiton. I'm going to give it to Halloween Leela. She's one of the best units in the game, and only costs 70. That's very strange. Next category, cost 100 unit of the year, and I'm not going to include Crystal Fest units for a reason that I'll explain in the Crystal Fest overview video, which I'll make in a few days. You could pick any of these, and you wouldn't be wrong, but I'm going to go with Dwayne. I know I put him as the worst release of the year in a previous video, but that doesn't make him a bad unit. His problem is that he is too good. But he is near top tier in both offense and defense, which is super rare in this game. He's dropped off a little in the last 3 months, especially with all of the light evade around. But I still consider him the most well-rounded unit in the game, along with Yuna and possibly Noctis. And if I'm going to join a multi-quest, I'm almost always going to bring Dwayne. Next, cost 90 or lower unit of the year from the Hatcher. Nominees are Charlotte, Mua, Falm, and Luelle. Not a lot of choice here, and I hope standard pool cost 90 units come back someday, but it's Charlotte, easily. She's a great tank, she's very easy to splash in different element teams, and was one of my most wanted for a Brave Exvius crossover unit, so I was happy that she came to the game and plays so well and looks so good. Next, cost 90 or lower unit of the year other than the Hatcher. Nominees here are Rafaru, Miyu, Muraga, and Lucio. I'll give it to Lucio. As much as I love Muraga, he's not for everybody, and he's much more challenging and intensive to max than Lucio. But I've heard Lucio described as a mini Dwayne, and I like that. And he's got a great Trustmaster as well. Speaking of Trustmaster, Trustmaster of the Year, nominees are June, Helena, Noctis, and Lucio. We'll give it to Lucio. Available to everyone, and then super important to have. Next, Vision Card of the Year. Nominees here, I'll do Chaos Odin, the new Christmas Secret Present, and then the Rob Vision Card. Choosing Vision Cards this year is hard because they are all element specific, and so like different accounts will value different things. But I'm going to choose Rob's Vision Card. It really enables light evade, which everyone will have access to, and that meta is very strong now in JP. Also, it is a standard pool, so everybody can get it fairly easily. I chose the Secret Present Vision Card because it has that vision ability. Vision abilities haven't come to the game very much recently. And then a Chaos Odin is really interesting. I would love to have it, and I look forward to the future of double or maybe triple element vision cards. Okay, finally is Unit of the Year. No, I mean this in a positive way. This is my personal favorite Unit of the Year. But nominees are Aerith, Muraga, Aranea, Barrett, Oberon, and Halloween Federica. I'm going to give it to Muraga. Fun unit and very strong. The selection quests, they are punishing, to me at least, because I'm not very good at this game. But I like playing his character so much that I will go through all of that for Muraga. Okay, here, let's start talking about some kind of bigger picture stuff. New game mode of the year, and I think all of these came out this year. But the nominees are the Pickup Match, the Guild Quest, Another Story, and Selection Quests. This is maybe not surprising, but I'll give it to Selection Quests. I've sung the praises of it many times already, but it's super well done, especially considering how it showcases lower rarity units. And then the addition of higher difficulty EX stages for unique weapons to further make the investment worth it. I love it. And then this serves as a preview of the future inevitable UR selection quests. They are putting it off because as much as people complain about building MRs, building URs is going to be way harder and more expensive. And then by doing MR quests first, you get people used to the idea, but also give everyone time to build their UR accounts. The developers won't release the content until enough people are ready for it. And I am counting on these quests to justify all the work I've done on my account up to now. As of now, I don't use over half of what I have maxed, units and vision cards. Okay, finally, let's talk about controversies. This is probably going to be the least popular segment of this video. But first, dumbest non-controversy of the year. These were non-controversies because they were pretty much all problems of perception. They were not actually real problems. But they were Valentine's Salia and then the censored costume. The rigged banners, that was piggybacking on the JP outrage without putting in the work. And then finally the Fest banner, Zazan joining the Fravia Dwayne banner. The rigged banner's non-controversy gets the prize, not because it was the dumbest, but because it did the most damage to the global community and the global version of the game. Before the rigged banner's outrage, global War of the Visions Reddit was a pretty peaceful place, and besides the usual complaints of too much farming and the game is too expensive like you see in all of these games' communities, the mood was pretty positive and people didn't attack each other. But after, the levels of distrust and cynicism and tribalism went way up, and Reddit turned into a negative, pessimistic space. Calls for boycotts on every little thing started happening. The global version presumably started making less money, and then they scaled back the generosity in response. This souring of the community happens to most mobile games, but it happening to War of the Visions on something that wasn't even real is tragic. Meanwhile, Valentine's Salia is in a way Global's greatest victory. The outrage actually got something accomplished, the censorship of a costume. Zazan and the Fest banner really shouldn't have been an issue because global players were already familiar with the setup of Fravia and Dwayne, but with the distrustful, cynical stance so ingrained in the community by that time, because of the rigged banners non-controversy, the groundwork was laid for that controversy to happen. Alright, and final category, worst controversy of the year. These were actually things that happened and mattered. The nominees are the Consumer Affairs Agency warning in JP. That was left over from the anniversary banners at the end of last year. But this warning, it occurred this year, so we'll make it a nominee. Next is the Cost 100 Rush, Mont, Helena, and Dwayne. And the last nominee is hacking in guild battles in Global. I'm not clear on all the details, but apparently multiple guilds cheated for easy wins. And by worst controversy, I mean the realist controversy with the most negative effects, and that would be the guild battle hacking in Global. The Consumer Affairs Agency thing was really serious, but it didn't actually move the needle that much on players already in the game. I didn't hear of a single JP player quitting over that. The Cost 100 Rush was really bad, and a lot of people did quit over that, but it led to one of the best changes in the history of the game, the lowering of the price of Cost 100 shards. But the global hacking of guild battles was the worst, because it really hurt the motivation of top players to play and spend, and that threatens the future existence of their version of the game. In the player survey for JP, we saw how popular guild battles are, and we can assume that guild battles drive sales in the game, along with people collecting units. And if it works out the same in Global at all, someone essentially cutting the legs out from under player motivation and the game's business model is super damaging. War of the Visions so far has thread that needle of getting people to spend for stuff that they don't really need. Again, there's very little tangible benefit from doing well in PvP, but if or when PvP stops driving profits for the company, they're going to look for sales in other game modes, and that will probably mean spiking the difficulty of PvE so high that you will need the new unit and or vision card to clear it, and making us want to clear that content by giving out some top tier weapon or unit as a reward, and nobody wants that. The most shocking thing to me about the guild battle hack thing was that people weren't angry at the hacker, they were angry at Square and Gumi for not, catching it sooner or preventing it. Almost as if the global community just accepted that hackers are a thing in their version of the game. But we can be absolutely sure that Square and Gumi also accept that hackers are just a thing in global versions of their games. And if folks were familiar with the history of hackers in other games, they would know it's pretty much not worth going after them. To prevent hacking, which I feel like is the best solution to this problem, we have to create an environment in the community that shuns and shames hackers, promotes fair play. Tolerating hackers is not good enough. They need to be called out and driven out. Folks in the same guild as a hacker that do not hack themselves are not blameless. Just by being there, they are showing tolerance. They need to either leave that guild or kick out the hacker. Starve the hackers of support and community, and hopefully they will stop hacking or just quit the game, and then we will all be better off. And we'll have a version where players can feel better about putting money into the game. And that is necessary for the healthy future of our game, of our community. Okay, that'll do it for the Cabbage of 2021. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.